Lucky once again, the flop house, the flop sexual house, sexual industrial regimes, the captivities, Israel and Judah, on account of Ezekiel 23. All right, let me get there real quick. Ezekiel 23. All right. I gotta get there real quick, man. Okay, so boom. Alright. It said, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teeth of their virginity, and the names of them were Aholah, the elder, and Aholah-Aholibah, her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names. Samaria is Aholah, and I would say Jeremiah, but Jerusalem, right? Aholibah, right? Northern and southern kingdom, right? So, and Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, and the Assyrians, her neighbors, right? Which were clothed with blue, captains and rulers, rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses. Thus she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were the chosen man of Assyria, right? And this who Israel and Judah is doting up after. Now, of course, it wasn't just Assyria, of course. You got the Chaldeans, you got the Egyptians. That's in the mix too, but mainly the Assyrians. Alright, and with all on whom she doted, and with their idols she defiled herself. Right? So neither left she her whoredoms brought from Egypt, and for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised their breasts or their virginity, and poured their whoredom upon her. So what happened was, alright, the captivity hit, boom. So the first thing was the sexual. That's why I got into this sexual captivity thing right now, cause this is symbolic of what took place. Right. So it said after she doted on all her lovers and the neighbors and all that, they passed a couple of their idols to her. See that the fact. So neither left.
I needed the iron and shit.
Right, so neither let she her whoredoms brought from Egypt, for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised their breast. Okay, we already read that. Okay, so wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians, upon whom she doted. These discovered. Right, so the nakedness right now, America's nakedness. It's not just Israel and Judah, but America's nakedness. The skirt is being shown. That skirt is being shown. So, it said,
Dad going to sleep, so don't bother him.
It said they took her sons and her daughters and slew her with the sword, and she became famous among women, for they had executed judgment upon her. So you got women, all of them, they saying she, but we know it's Israel, it's Judah. So it's women, children, and the sons of man of Israel. So it's just symbolic. It's just two twin sisters. well, I ain't gonna say twin, but it was just symbolic. Just the Aholah-Aholibah and the Aholah was just symbolic. We gonna get into some more content dealing with that because we had an older arc, we broke it down. So look, um, okay, he said, and she became famous among women, for they had executed judgment upon her, and when her sister Aholah saw this, she was more corrupt. Okay, this Judah. Hold on, you had Israel. I think it was Israel first. Then you had Judah, which is the whole. What was that? Hold on. So, okay, yeah, Aholah. It said Aholah saw this. She was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she, and her whoredoms more than her sisters and her whoredoms. Right? She doted upon Assyrians, her neighbors, captains, right? Rulers clothed with most glorious, with like basically more beautiful garments and raiment. So horsemen riding upon horses, all of them desirable young man. Then I saw that she was defiled, that they stood, right, that they took both one way, and that she increased her whoredoms. But when she saw men portrayed, what was that? She saw men's picture, like, all they helmet, all they armor, everything that was like something to dote upon. It was on the walls. Everything was on the walls. So look, it said the images of the Chaldeans, which is the Babylonians, portrayed with this red, with this eye-catching red color, but they call it vermilion. Vermilion. So like, hold on. Vermilion. So girded with the girdles upon their loins, exceeding and these, let me see, and dyed attire upon their heads. All of them princes to look to after the manner of the Babylonians, of the Chaldeans, or Chaldea, right? The land of their nativity. And as soon as she saw them with her eyes, she doted upon them and sent messengers unto them into Chaldea. So the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredom, and she was polluted with them. Her minds were solid on your bed. On your bed. They said her mind was alienated from them, so she discovered her whoredoms and discovered her nakedness. Then my mind was alienated from her, like as my mind was alienated from her sister. So once her mind went after them idols and that she got defiled with, and then went out to this, basically how, because y'all really don't leave us. He really don't leave us, we leave him. Now that just showed that we left him. But of course, it's like we in a gross darkness now. We starting to see everything coming to pass. Everything is, everything out here really. So his spirit ain't gonna dwell for too long. His son's spirit ain't gonna dwell too long in the earth. Now his judgment still, of course, he gonna pour out his judgment. He gonna pour out his wrath. Because we in the judgment seat now. So that's everything that's coming to pass. Revelation, everything that you don't know is coming out. You know what I'm saying? Certain iniquities that was in dark places coming out. All that is coming out. So, what was that? What we at, Salaki? Okay, now Israel and Judah, mine went for first I think it was Judah, or I think it was Judah first, or it was, okay, I'm gonna just say Israel first. It was Israel first. Her mind went away from the ways of Yah, went away from the God mind, the God head of Yah that he was operating, he had among them, which is symbolic for his spirit, because his spirit it could be the whole body, or it could just be the conscience, it can be the head. So that was that the first thing got alienated was the mind, strayed away from what he was already telling, what he was already signaling them on, and what he was already showing. You feel me? So that went away. Boom. So you know what I'm saying? God defiled all these idols. Now, if you look around, it ain't nothing but idolatry everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And the ones you gotta understand, cause it's still the time where you got Judah, or you, like I said, I don't know which one who first. You know what I'm saying? Alienated their mind first, and they went astray. But I'ma just say Israel first. So then you got Judah looking up on this, and it's like, okay, right? And then it's like, okay, dang. You know, putting it in a standpoint of how I would put it, like the two sisters, but really it's just Israel and Judah. But if you just look at it, they be like, dang, sis just did this. You know what I'm saying? Brother just did this. Oh, the kid doing this. Right? And they looking at it. Now, you know how people can dress up iniquity and dress up sin like it's okay. Dang, man, I want to do that too. The whole time in your mind, you knowing, okay, this ain't what I'm supposed to be doing. So boom, that was the case. Now Judah saw this. They observed it, looked at, you know what I'm saying, looked. Right? Of course, the so-called African Americans, the blacks. That's Judah, the West African ones who was in West Africa, the West region of West Ophir, right? We don't even say Africa no more. We should say West Ophir, because if you go look at the coast, you know what I'm saying, them coasts and isles, dealing with the ships of Tarshish, dealing with the times of King David and King Solomon, the son and father. It states in the scrolls, Ophir. It shows you what is the name of Africa is in the scrolls, in the Holy Bible, in the KJV, right? It shows you Africa name in the scrolls, and it was Ophir. So look, right. It said, yeah, she multiplied her whoredoms and calling to remember. Mind you, when that happened, Israel's mind was alienated from Yah. Yah alienated his mind, so that means his spirit. He took his spirit away. He gave them up to them, like he stated. He gave them up to their lovers. So that means everything they lovers had going, that was dealing in, right? So he said she discovered her whoredom. Now at first it just said they discovered they nakedness. So nakedness and that's really all together. Right? But they discovered they whoredoms. Right? And discovered her nakedness, and her mind was alienated from her, like as my mind was alienated from her sister. And she multiplied whoredoms and calling them to remember the days of her youth, wherein she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt, for she doted upon their prayer armors, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, whose issue is like the issue of horses, and thus, thus thou callest to remember thy lewdness of thy youth, and bruising thy teeth of the by the Egyptians for the paps, of thy of thy youth. It's like it. Therefore, it said, therefore, O Aholah-Aholibah, thus said the Lord Yah, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee. Right? What we seeing now? It's not just talking about lovers, everybody we was making, even children, because it's captivity as a whole. We in Egypt, it's captivity. Every time you go to Egypt, it's captivity. So we already in captivity. So that means we've been there for a minute. We had our people making babies with their lovers. They was making babies with the nations of their lovers. All these different nations around us, all these different ethnicities around us, all these different, backgrounds of culture around us. So, nigga, they was giving them what, just like now. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna knock it because it's fruit. It's all fruit. But, man, they gave them fish. They was giving them watermelon. Like, this is specific. This how you know it's Abba, it's Yah, because it's specific. You got many brothers that go into it. It's specific, bro. What they, you know what I'm saying, what we stayed under. What we was eating, what we had abundance in. Or what we had abundance in, right? It's what we had plenty of abundance in, which is fish. You had garlic. You had watermelon. You had, bro, this is all, it's like precise. He knew exactly, nigga, what caught our attention, how we wanted him. Bro, he knew. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, bro, like, yeah, bro. So, look. All right, so look. Now we're gonna get back into the vid, and we're gonna pick up on the arc for one in details of what was going on. So look, we're gonna get two videos of content of that matter. Then we're gonna correlate. We're gonna stretch it. You know what I'm saying? From the prophecy of Aholah-Aholibah from Ezekiel 23 on down to what was taking place after the facts. Alright, so let's get into it.
It's taxing for me because the images that God is entrusting me with and the reality of what God is showing me is extremely blunt. It is extremely blunt, and it is very hard.
All because of iniquity.
And while I make no bones about the fact that this is difficult subject matter, what I absolutely will not tolerate is this type of fat, obese, unshapely, unwieldy in the spirit type of person constantly coming here and trying to make these prophetic words about you and your little spiritually broken clutch and shaky steering wheel as you try to navigate your way through life. People who they have a problem with, oh, the pictures are very graphic for the prophecies, oh, the descriptions are a little bit too detailed. You are the type of hypocrite that has created the environment and the culture that we have in Christianity today. The kind of environment and culture that allows 60 and 70-year-old pastors to groom 12 and 13-year-olds and then marry them when they reach the age of majority. You are the type of person who fosters this victim blaming in church. The type of person who the pastor is a dirty, nasty pedophile. And the story of him abusing 3 or 4 boys has finally come out. And then it's you, Mother Pembleton, and Brother Chris that will find your way to the victims' homes and sit on the couch and sip cold tea and say, you know, it's true what Pastor Winklebaum did to these boys. It's terrible, but you know, he's such a good man. And you know, he's been with the church 20, 30 years, and look at what he's done for the community. I will say it bluntly because I said it to someone today. I'm not speaking to everyone who watches this video, but that type of Christian, you are more disgusting than any vision, any prophecy that I have ever seen in the years that I have been serving the Lord. You are a blight on the Church of Jesus Christ. You are sanctimonious. You are a hypocrite. You are the type of person that allows Satan to constantly exist in the underbelly of society. Because when people are telling you the truth, you are Jesus's personal assistant, and so you know better. And so you know, these words can't possibly be God. It doesn't sound like God to me. You pick up the newspapers and you see the filth and the scandals that are coming out. So what you're saying is the New York Times can break these stories, right? It's the Washington Post, it's Time Magazine, it's Newsweek who should lead the way. in exposing the filth in our culture and society as a nation. But when God sends someone ahead with the truth to tell you before the time that the roaches have eaten up the floorboards and they've made the house so weak that the entire thing is about to fall in, then it's not God. But when you see it on CNN and your little talking head gods reveal it to you, then it's, oh my gosh, these poor children. You are an embarrassment to the Church of Jesus Christ. You are selfish. You think that the reason I'm sitting here is to make you feel good. You think that the reason God took me through what he took me through to prepare me for this ministry is so I can sit here at odd hours of the night making videos in a manner that is acceptable to you and to please your flesh. But all I will say is this. I'm firmly convinced that there are only two types of people in the world: wise people and fools. And those who come here seeking a fool's portion, I will serve you the fool's reward. Today's prophecy is a very difficult one. Please do not watch this with your children. And I'm not kidding. This is not material for little children. This is not material for your middle schoolers. This is not for your 15-year-old. I do not even think that your 18-year-old should have access to this. But if you have robust children and you're in the habit of teaching them what could happen to them, because this prophecy is dealing with the little children that I said should not watch this prophecy, the middle schoolers, and even the teen adult children that should not be exposed to this material. Young people, I'm going to give you a heads up. You keep going to these parties, you keep going to these raves, you keep joining those secret chat threads on Snapchat and UChat and all the chats, and listening to your friends. Oh, we found that there's these people, well, they just want, as a couple of old guys, but they just want us to hang out with them. They're having a party and no, nothing bad really happens. You keep hanging around that environment. Young person, let your mother tell you this after this video. Let your father or your uncle who watches this channel tell you this. You keep hanging around the kind of morally corrupt characters that take people to jail in drug busts, or that get people snatched and taken in vans. And you will find out why the Bible says very strongly that bad character corrupts good morals. That is a stern warning from the Lord Jesus Christ, that you can't keep rubbing up against charcoal and expect to have a white shirt. I'm speaking to the men especially because I feel a very great pain, as God has been showing me in this prophecy series, what happens to the male body when men are violated sexually. And I'm not talking about being raped by women. I'm talking about men being sodomized by other men against their will, or even the young men that unwisely get into these homosexual relationships for cash, for clout, because they say they're cross-dressers or things like that. If you knew the terrible price that you will pay physically, emotionally, and in your mind. Men, be careful when you go to the gym. Men, be careful when you come back from sports and you think because you're 6'2", you can walk along the street. These vans have 6 to 8 men in them. When they pick you up, they're going to test the merchandise before they take you to the human trafficking place. That is all I'm going to say. The title of this prophecy is called The Sex Industry Flophouse, July 31st, 2022. The end of lies in America is near. God will bring every false edifice crashing down, and he will expose who is behind it. Not one stone will be left unturned. So the dream I had, I was stuck in this dream. I dreamt of a very horrible double-story or triple-story house. This was a beautiful house. This is the kind of house that you call a mansion, okay? If you're watching it in the movies, the way this house was is it has a very big, nicely carved wooden door, the good old-fashioned heavy type that you can't get anymore. And when this door swings open, the first thing that is in the middle of the house is this grandiose staircase that just sweeps all the way through the belly of the house. So the star of this house was the staircase. As soon as you open the door, the staircase was there going up to the first landing and the second landing, and then the landings opened up. So it was 1 story, 2 stories, and the staircase coming all the way down right into this very grand foyer in the front yard. And what God was talking to me in this dream. He was talking to me after the dream, and God was telling me that houses like this exist all over the world, and that some of them, well, they don't have the luxury of being this kind of Southern Belle house. So he says that some of them are just high rises, multi-story buildings, not skyscrapers, but just multi-story buildings that look like buildings. But this place, it is called the sex industry flop house. So I thought a flop house is perhaps just a place where addicts go, like, an opium den. Not at all. There are flop houses that exist purely to house an entire sex industry. And when I say an entire sex industry, I mean a business. It is being run like a business. The madams are there, there's cleaning staff there, there's people to look after the little children and keep them controlled and everything. There's external staff like doctors to come in and perform abortions, or doctors to come in and deal with the horrible infections and sicknesses that will always often affect the human body when you keep abusing the human body for sex. So it was a horrible dream, a dim and a grungy dream. And I was worn out thinking about this dream when I woke up. But the Lord said this to me. He said, you have to speak of these things because people think they don't exist. They are so proud and hard-hearted that they think their present reality is the real reality. And that is why you have to keep speaking. You have to keep speaking, because people would rather believe what the government tells them than believe the truth, but they will be judged for it. And this is the warning I gave in the beginning. In the end of time, hear me very well, you, that type of person that I was talking to, God is going to judge all the pedophiles. He's going to judge all the defiant people who were fornicating and saying, well, we're married because we had sex and we love each other, so we don't need to get married properly. He's going to judge everybody who clung to an immoral lifestyle, everyone who laid down and had sex with an animal, as I'm starting to see in visions and dreams now. God is even taking it there. But another type of person he's going to judge is you, that person that thinks you are Jesus Christ 2.0, that when the Lord says these things are real, then you come and say, I don't think they're real, because if they were real, the government would be talking about it, and there would be a task force and a force and a third force to look into this. You have blood on your hands as much as the people who perform these sex acts. Every single person who has ever clapped for an unrepentant pastor who was exposed for having an affair and did not stop having the affairs, but began to become a serial affair haver and then confess every 2 to 3 years, and they're like, we love you, pastor. Every single person who supported these people who were exposed for raping people in positions of power in the banking world, in the sports world, these things came out, and you were supporting them and just saying, but it could be all lies. You have blood on your hands. And according to Romans chapter 1 and 32, just as God says, you will be judged for it. That's the one person you can't escape, is the Father. Romans chapter 1 verse 32 says this: they know God's righteous decree, that those who practice such things deserve to die. But they not only do them, they applaud and support others who do them. So in this house that I dreamt of, they abuse men, women, and children without discrimination. It doesn't matter. And I just want to say to people, especially males really trust in their own strength. This is a blessing to you. God has given you your strength to be protectors. God has given you your strength because he actually is blessed when he sees you guys glorying in your physical strength and youth. But when you are in a position where the power dynamics threaten you with death, or even threaten you with mutilation, or where you are kept semi-drugged all the time, it doesn't matter how tall you are. It doesn't matter how strong you are. In this prophecy, I was seeing extremely buff and good-looking boys, stark naked, and they were trapped in that house. There's no way to get out of that house because that house has security like Hamas. The men I was seeing were looking mostly Arab. So they were looking mostly Arab, and then a few South Americans, and then maybe one or two white guys. That was what I was seeing. The security in this house was almost like the kind of security you would expect to see following presidents in countries where the presidents know that they want to kill them. That's the kind of security. 24-hour security, patrolling, especially the inside of the house with these the cameras that just watch everywhere, and there's actually a control room with a guy there monitoring everything that is going on in the house. And these men are not the kind of men who seemed moved by naked flesh. So this is not the kind of security guard where you can come and flash your chest and say, Harold, I really want to run away. Can you help me? These men are not moved. In fact, they distance themselves on purpose. They're here to provide security. They provide the security, get their money, and they do not even gaze at what is going on in the house. So I've described the house and the sweeping staircase, and what this staircase was used for is it was used to model the sex slaves in the house. So they would bring people up and down the staircase when the customers came. Sometimes they would parade people up and down the staircase naked. This is the madams. They would be showing, oh, she's tall, oh, she's willowy. Is this what you had in mind, Mr. Harrelson? And then Mr. Harrelson is shopping on the left side of the staircase, and then a few steps up is maybe another type of girl. Maybe she's dark-skinned with exotic eyes, exotic features, and then they're like, oh, there, or maybe it's a redhead, so she's exotic in her own way. And men and women come in and shop according to their preference for people. And I was living in that house. So I was in that house, but I was an observer in that house. And as I said, I could not leave. I was forced to live in that house. And it was as if in that house I had been given a task. And my task was to collect all my belongings. So it was as if I was told, Celestial, if you can collect everything that you own in this house and put it into your bags, then you can go. The problem is that my stuff was all over the house. It was in multi-bedrooms and multi-nooks and crannies. And as I was going into those bedrooms and nooks and crannies, here are the things that I was seeing. I was working in this dream with all my heart to leave this place. But as I was trying to collect my stuff, I saw a lot of horrific stuff going out there. And one of the things about the industry flop houses is that it has hierarchies. So these are obvious, some of them are obvious hierarchies, and some of them are not obvious. In an obvious hierarchy, it's just like prison. You have the warden and his cronies, who are the guards, and then you have obviously the incarcerated people who are lower on the totem pole. But then even among the incarcerated people, you have hierarchies where some are stronger and some are weaker. And that's why people form gangs in prison, and that's why people join gangs in prison, to get some kind of loyalty, to get some kind of protection. So the power dynamics were, some of them were obvious, like the madams obviously have power, but then among the madams have favorites. So then the favorites are incarcerated like the other people, but then because you're a favorite, you get more favors, and I'll talk about that. And so it's a question of who's a favorite and who's not a favorite, who is bigger versus who is smaller, who has managed to gain a little bit of favor with the staff, so that perhaps if you're hungry, a maid will sneak you food because she's friends with you, but then another person in your same room could be hungry and the maid won't bring them anything because she's not friends with them. So you need loyalties to survive in this sex industry. This is what I saw. Even if you are a captive and your life is bleak and horrible, you still need loyalties to survive. I saw open plan showers, so there's no privacy. It's just male showers and female showers. And I watched a young boy being raped. This boy seemed about maybe 14 or 15, but he's the kind of boy who his bulk doesn't come in early in his puberty. It's going to hit later. Or maybe he's just one of those slender men that's never going to get that really big size. I saw about 4 or 5 boys come after him, and I remember they were slipping on the bathroom floor. And God was giving me a view into these boys' hearts, even as I was seeing their brutal act of grabbing their friend, and I saw blood going on the shower floor as they were assaulting him. God was telling me that the bigger boys were filled with rage because politicians kept coming to the sex house and asking for them by name. Politicians kept coming to the sex house and asking for these handsome boys to perform sodomy acts on them. So some of these boys were asked for by name because the politician wanted to be the woman, and then the handsome boy will be the man. But then some of these boys were asked for because the politician wanted to be the man and perform these acts on these boys. And they kept coming back because they had a thing for handsome, well-built young men. So this other slimmer boy, I guess, was someone who was not asked for a lot, because when a man wants to have an encounter with another man, obviously, just like men look for certain traits in women, sodomites look for certain traits in men. And so they hated this boy, and they were just taking out their rage on him. And God was showing me that these children had a black hole of rage in them because of how frequently these men in high political circles kept coming and asking for them. And I saw that these boys also kept up relations with girls their same age. So if a boy is 16, they were having sexual relations with girls in the sex industry flop house. So they give them some measure of freedom. At least this house that I was seeing. This house that I was seeing, God was showing me, is right here in America. In one of these places like Louisiana, or these kinds of places where they build the houses like that. These antebellum, that's the word that was in my spirit. This is an antebellum era house. These boys have relationships with the female captives, and what was put in my heart is sleeping with a woman reminds them that they are still male. So they crave these stolen moments with these girls, and they even have sort of like, I love you too, maybe we're gonna run away. They have these liaisons because it affirms the tattered shreds of their manhood in them, that I'm still normal, because these other men, the powerful men, rich men, kept coming and stroking them and telling them, oh, my little pretty, and stuff like that. And so these boys needed stress relief after. I went into another room to get an item, and in that room I saw small children, hopeless and crying in the closet. So this is one of these prophecies where I do not think that God showed me anything happening to small children. For once, I just saw them. They had gone into the closet, a boy and a girl. Excuse me, please. And they were sitting, and each person was holding their knees, and they were just going, and they were crying in the closet, hopeless and crying like children who are not being adopted in the orphan home. And I think there was socks of mine in that room, so I just had to take my socks and leave. I went into other rooms where I saw that married women come to these industry flop houses, and they come purely to perform oral sex on young men. So that is their deal. They're not coming to touch people in any other way. And God was showing me some of these women have fetishes. They come and ask for a child, the age of their son at home. So if they have a 10-year-old, maybe God is helping and blessing their 10-year-old at home. And the mother doesn't dare touch the 10-year-old boy. But then they come to have oral sex on the 10-year-old in the flop house. And some of them married working women. I'm not talking about high up women, just normal, ordinary working women who know that this is a prostitution house, as well as political women and the aides that work for them. They come to this flop house and they ask for the virile young men, the good-looking young boys. They tip generously to have their fantasies played out by male and female, most of them of an age that should be in high school. So yes, they come and they practice lesbianism. A flop house is not like prostitution. Prostitutes have freedom. Prostitutes have 1 or 2 kids and they drop off their kids at daycare. Prostitutes are on Facebook and Instagram now doing live stream and telling them, this is my normal day. I make my kids cereal. Prostitutes have huge followings on the internet now. Prostitutes have pimps, and the pimps have leveled up give them a level of freedom because it increases the money a woman can make. They have apartments and day jobs. A flop house is a tightly monitored, secure, guarded sex industry house that can be sitting right in the middle of a normal neighborhood, and not a single person in that neighborhood will know what goes on in that house because of how well insulated that flop house is from the outside world. The chances of an escape from a high-level flop house is about 0.0000000th of half an inch. Once you get in, you're usually not coming out unless you're dead or in another way that I will mention. I saw a lady meticulously keeping track of the money. So I don't know why this dream seemed like an old Victorian era dream. The house was modern, but at the same time, the house looked like it came straight out of the 1400s or the 1600s or something like that. This woman was wearing a maroon dress with a ruffled high collar and puffy sleeves and a huge poofed out, and she was keeping accounts in a ledger. But I knew that this woman is supposed to be keeping her books on a computer, but she was keeping her accounts on a ledger. And since I came in to get a scarf, I stood right over her and looked in the book to see what she was writing. And this is what she was writing. She was writing down the name of every person who came to the flop house. She was writing down the name of every person that they slept with. She was making a distinction between whether they just chose someone by sight or whether they kept asking for someone by name, what they paid, what are the acts they do to the victims, how frequently they come back, who first recommended them to come to the flop house, and who they also recommend to visit the flop house. She was working out a ton of information of a ton of names. And I saw that the people who go to this sex industry flop house have no idea that this much data is being kept on them by the places they go. This is whether you're going in Vegas, whether you're going in Oregon, whether you're going in Kansas, whether you're going right here in New York City, it does not matter. People have no idea how much data is captured on them, and they also have no idea how much the sex slaves talk about them to the madams. The madams ask the children, ask the young men and women, what did he talk about after you guys were finished? Did he tell you anything interesting? And this is how they capture more industry information, more national information. God was putting it in my heart that these women that run the sex trade know more than the president of America knows about what goes on in this country, because the president doesn't have access to this many sources to give information on this many paying clients from so many different walks of life. The flop house madams know what the House and the Senate are voting on before they even vote on it. They know the secret preferences of the senators, the House representatives, the governors, even their flunkies. You name it. They know who's not really gay. God said that there are people in America who pretend to get elected on a gay platform, but they sleep with women. And God has been telling me this since 2019. Celestial, not everybody who's running on a gay platform in America is gay. Those people enjoy women and they have an entire separate life. So the flop house madams know who's not really gay and who comes to the flop house to ask for women. But when they go out, they run on political platforms to gain support for a sexual minority. God said that these women have information that can put a lot of powerful people in prison, and it all goes in the ledger. I guess ledger stands for heavily encrypted hard drives, because this is 2022. The Lord also said that ever since orphanages were created, even before then, children have been marginalized, sexually abused, and raped. And that is why the dream looked old. He was telling me this looks like an old dream because this is an old practice of hurting children. The only difference now is that technology has turned the acts of wickedness against children into severe wickedness. And he said that at least in the Victorian era, when you had a prostitution house, everybody who was in there was voluntarily working as a prostitute, and it was almost exclusively adults. But now he says this multi-billion-dollar enterprise runs on human trafficking, and the sex slaves in there are anyone who can be caught. This is why I say to people, you buy your AirPods, you want everyone to know that you have Apple AirPods, and so you're out there at 4 a.m. coming from the 24-hour gym, or you're coming home from work at 6:30. You know when you get off the train at your place, it'll be 8 p.m., yet you're walking on the street with both your ears blocked off because you think perhaps God and the angels owe you something that goes above and beyond you operating on common sense. Watching your six, watching your surroundings, and keeping those toys out of your ear, especially if you are a female walking alone. God says the empire of sexual molestation, this sex industry, can be found everywhere from Singapore to Saratoga, USA. And so I saw the staff. We're talking cooks, we're talking the people who do the laundry, we're talking people who clean, because there's a lot of soiled and bloody bed sheets that need to be changed in this place around the clock. They serve food. Food is served. Wine is served. For well-paying guests, dinner is served in the big ballroom. And you can have dinner by yourself, or you can ask for dinner to be sent to the room and share it with your favorite sex slave. Or you can go down to the big ballroom and you can talk politics and money with the other people who have come for the evening to do this, because you're all friends and you all know that you all do this. So there's no reason to hide or eat by yourself. Here are the places the Lord named to me when I was asleep: Portland, Oregon; Maine; Washington, D.C., Tampa Bay, and other parts of Florida. All over Florida, he said. New York, Louisiana, Oakland City, Des Moines, Iowa, Milwaukee, Tennessee, Indiana. He said it's in all the border states, especially where America keeps a border to the south. And I actually saw in another prophecy that there is a healthy trade of stealing South American women and trafficking them across the border through the southern border, Texas, I guess, and the rest of them. There's a heavy border trade trafficking South American women into this country. And sometimes when those women are feisty and they fight back, they beat them up. I saw a woman on a human trafficking website, and she'd been given 2 black eyes. And what they wrote underneath her profile is feisty, hot, spicy mama, petite. I think she was only 5'1". So that's how she was being sold on the human trafficking website. And God was showing me, yeah, she was feisty only because she tried to fight when they grabbed her. So people are trafficked over the South American border to fuel this trade. It is called the skin trade. It is a flourishing trade in America, and you have to be bitterly tough to work there. This is the staff. You are not paid to show empathy or sympathy. And as soon as they see you heading in that direction, starting to feel sorry for the people in captivity, they will fire you, or they just might kill you, because it's not a business that they can afford to have people leaving and talking and saying, oh, I saw this and I saw that. You sign non-disclosure agreements, and if you break your NDA, they will see you as an enemy. They will keep a sharp eye on you if you do manage to leave this line of work as a bodyguard, or as an indoor maid, or something, as a cook, or maybe as one of the technical clerks that run the financial side. If you do leave this job, you've already signed a ton of NDAs, and because this is a dirty industry, they don't really care about that NDA. If they feel that there's any risk from you jeopardizing their clients or jeopardizing them and spilling the beans on the operation, they'll just kill you, because you're just a loose end and nobody will miss you. They will make sure that it's done. So I saw that people are kept against their will in this industry until they are killed against their will. So from the time of captivity until the time you die, your sole purpose in the sex industry, Flophouse, is to provide sex services for people. Whatever they want, whatever desire, whatever sick fantasy, you are there to provide it. It's a place that sex can be provided at high cost, low cost, or no cost. Low cost and no cost is if you're somebody who's high up in a place of power, police chief, or your police captain, your detective. Higher than that, your judge, circuit court judge, any type of judge. You're high up in the local government, you're an alderman, or you're even higher than that. You're a governor, a mayor, that kind of person. If you're somebody with connections, you can get free sex because you can pay them later down the road by voting in a way that favors someone that the flop house wants to be in good books with. So you can trade voting rights, or you can use your influence to help the people who own the flop house. One of the kind of help they want is with city inspectors. They don't want city inspectors crawling around, and so you can make all the zoning headaches of running a prostitution ring right in the middle of a city or town. You can just make that all go away, and then you don't have to pay. And here's what I'm going to say. There's a certain state, I can't think of it right now. It is a documentary that just came out recently, done by Vice News. And the shame of it is that Vice News had to do this documentary instead of it being this kind of story being broken by the national news or even by the news station in that state. I can't remember the state now, but basically what they found is that the officers in that state were directly targeting female sources. You know, the kind of woman who gets in trouble and then she goes to jail once and she comes out, and then maybe she goes to jail twice and she's scared because there's that 3 strikes rule. So she's on parole and she can't afford to break the parole. And so the police say, just keep your ears to the street, Marcia, and if you get any information, call us. What was found is that the officers on that police force had a routine habit of targeting female sources and forcing them to give them oral sex. Yeah, I'm looking at you and you're looking at me. This is news. You can look it up on the internet. They would find these sources and they would tell them, I haven't heard any news from you trying to crack a case. You heard anything on the street? But basically, he's not actually there to get news. One of these women confessed that it was becoming so horrible that she was willing to risk going to jail. She said that one of the detectives came after her. She had been forced to perform oral sex on him upwards of 40 times. So let's say this, let me say this, as you're sitting comfortably at home, upwards of 40 times. So this is not a question of, but she's just a street lady and she had problems with drugs or whatever. She's still somebody's child. The system has determined that, okay, she's done wrong once and now she's on parole. How does a person in power come to that lady? I mean, she said that he used to drive the streets looking for her, and she would have to hide because he was constantly looking for a way to force her to do that. And every time she would say, what if I don't do that? This detective's name is Brian something. What if I don't want to do it? He would just take his handcuffs and put it on the dash as if to say, well, I'm going to have to make something up and take you in. This is just something to think about, America, because what happens in this country is that debates get so polarizing. I've noticed that all the keyboard warriors at home are more interested with being right. So it's all about our boys in blue, our boys in blue. And when you have that kind of mindset, as a father, as a man, you're too proud to actually sit down and actually ask yourself, is there rot in the system? Is there abuse in the system? I'm a former detective. Hey, I used to walk the streets. I saw some of those guys. Am I so concerned with being right that I am not willing to look closer at a system in decline? All of America's systems are in decline. The government, the medical system, the school system, the social system, the political system, the religious system, all of the systems of this nation, including the systems that are supposed to keep us safe. The cops and the army are in decline. More and more sociopaths are entering these positions of authority and power to harm people. But because it's so trendy to just get on the back of Blue Lives Matter and Green Lives Matter, People who call themselves Christians are no longer concerned with upholding the righteous standard of the Lord Jesus Christ. So is it any wonder that the people that are supposed to be patrolling the streets and keeping it safe are sometimes the very people that these young boys and young girls name and say, I saw this cop and he used to sleep with me. This woman who was being abused by the policeman was not believed. You can see the footage of how when she finally went to the department and said, I have to make this known. I don't care if you guys put me in jail. This is giving me mental anxiety. This is making me crazy. You should see the footage when they brought that cop in. Brian, we're so sorry to bother you. We're so sorry to interrupt your day, because it's automatically assumed that because she's a certain type of person, she has to be lying. This is why I had to speak to that type of Christian in the beginning, because people like you foster environments where those who are being abused and raped and held are not believed. And I will make sure that you are 1,000,000,000% uncomfortable here. You will either come up to the fact and realize that if you can see a female talking about these issues, that means that God trusts me enough to see it and to bear it. And I don't even think I'm going through anything seeing it and bearing it, because I know that people are living this. I know that this is someone's reality, being raped in a bathroom. So I'm not going to tell God, oh, but my eyes, God, this is so graphic. All I can say is, God, I will pray for them. I will stand for them. They come to these places, government people, heavily connected people in all the power circles. And they don't have to hide their face, because as far as they know, these captives don't get out of these places alive. Lawsuits, lawyers, judges, magistrates, they can help the sex industry flophouse people. As long as you can offer some kind of favor now or a favor down the road, the madams will let you access the merchandise for free. Some people don't come to the flophouse. They send cars to pick up the boy, the girl, the man, the woman, the group that they want. And I saw that some girls take joy in being this kind of girl. The kind of girl who gets outsourced, the escort girl, because they get privileges. I saw girls willingly and energetically having sex with rich men because it came with perks, like going to nice hotels, meals, getting presents, going to mansions to spend the night. I saw that sometimes these men will take you on trips, and they even allow you to have a little bit of fun in the real world, and then they send you back to the flop house. An industry flop house is a large house that exists for rape, for sodomy. This is homosexual sex, sexual abuse, drug trafficking, human trafficking, bestiality, and extreme violence. I saw that some patrons beat people because that's the only way they get turned on. I saw that some patrons go there to work out their anger. They punch people because they're sick, angry, emotionally unstable people who like to hurt others. The sex industry flop house is a place where you can get anything you want, where you can tie people up and act all your fantasies with them, and they can't do anything to stop you. So I saw that places like this require a huge investment of staff. They have a ton of front people. So the front people are the people who are laundering the money, because millions pass through these flop houses, and you can't say that this is Ma Baker's Waffle House. You can't explain $3 billion a year or $100 million in 6 months and say, I make this selling ice cream. So they are bankers, backers, lawyers, friends in high places, financiers that legitimize the money that flows through this. They cover the paper trail. They make sure that the rich people's credit cards don't actually show where they spent that cash. They do things to keep the flop house operational and undiscovered. There's a pyramid staff inside the house, another type of power structure. At the top are the owners and investors, the people who actually own the entire building and basically own the slaves in there. A ton of shelf companies to cover the paper trail. And then you have the visible power structure inside the house, day-to-day handling of everything. You got the madams, the prostitution heads who interact with girls, men, women, and boys. These women have great memories and they remember who is who and greet them by name and remember who they like and make suggestions and say things like, we have something special and different for you today. Why? Because the more you surprise these clients, the more they will come back and spend. You have security, you have caretakers for the captives, especially women that look after smaller children. You have doctors to deal with sickness, diseases, injury, abortion. You have morticians to handle death and lawyers to cover the inevitable amounts of paperwork that goes with such things. There are people who are 24 hours on site, and there are people who only come when they're needed, like an abortion doctor or the people who take away dead bodies. I saw that one of the things the lawyers handle are secret birth and death certificate. There are a ton of people in the United States that die off the books. There are a ton of people in the United States that are born and have no name. There are children in this country who have never heard Doug or Katerina called to mean them. They are a series of complicated numbers and codes, and that is what they are known as. Anything can happen to this group of people born in this way because nobody knows that they're alive. They can be sold, abused, and trafficked to people who want children and can't have them. That's right. Black market babies come from the flop house. You get pregnant, you don't have to have sex for a while. If they don't abort the baby, you can have the baby and then they will sell it. People are buying code numbered children out there, and the first time the child will ever receive a name is when they're brought home for the first time off this black market sale. I saw that even children who have been alive for 3 and 4 years do not have names. These children can also be easily killed if a child has a complication or a disease. So they let the child live. Maybe they don't abort the child, and then the child gets born with asthma or something that people are just tired of looking after. They will kill the child. Children are also aborted, in which case it's easy to take care of and nobody has to worry about their mother's pregnancy. I saw also that some children survive and they go away somewhere with their moms, especially if it's a famous person's child or a powerful person's baby. You don't just go around killing the babies of the rich. You can't just harm the child of somebody who's up there, because when the person is informed and the person is told, don't kill my child, then the flop house has to make arrangements and the man will pay for the girl, the pregnant girl, and her baby to go away somewhere. But for the most part, flop houses are set up as relentless meat grinders that chew up people and spit them out, either dead or diseased or extremely abused and traumatized human flesh. So I've described the guards. They don't look at people. They just walk around and do their job. They're there to guard. They keep to themselves. They don't make eye contact for the same reasons that the caregivers don't get too close. Caregivers are not allowed to get too close to the people they're caring for because they don't want you to start having any ethical thoughts or moral decay or start feeling sorry for everyone. You're there for security. You provide the security. And I was walking around collecting my stuff in that place and just asking myself, God, how does a person live here? How does a person work here and walk around and act like see no evil, hear no evil, think no evil, feel no evil? And yet every inch of this house is death. And so I will go rapidly through the things that I saw. At some point, God put me at the foot of the staircase. I found myself standing at the foot of the staircase, and here's the staircase going up. And then let's say 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 were open bedrooms. So that's not how a house exists. He just put open squares for bedrooms, and in each square I saw stuff going on. This is it quickly. People were raped, tied up, raped in the backside, male and female. They would chain you to the bed and rape you like that. Or there was some metal thing that comes out of the wall, and then the patron can do that anal sodomy to you for as long as they've paid for. It doesn't matter if the person is crying, tired, screaming. As long as the patron, if the patron pays for a 3-hour time period, that is how long the patron gets to do that particular act to someone. I saw people dressed up like fairies. They dressed up like supernatural animals. They dressed up like nurse and doctor to act out fantasies. I saw a naked woman wearing a 1950s apron feeding a man oatmeal like his mom used to do and beating him with a wooden spoon because he was bad. I saw a man come in and he beat the flop house boy, and then he raped the boy in his backside because that's what the patron's father used to do to him. I saw another man in one of the rooms who came in and he made the man in the flop house beat him, and then he made the man sodomize him because that's what his father used to do. So 2 men abused by their fathers. One of them came and he did to another sex slave what his dad used to do to him. But another man came and made the sex slave do to him what his dad used to do to him. I saw a lot of couples in what God was telling me were fake love. So I saw them having sex like people who were in real love. They had music, and the people brought their favorites. They bought them gifts, clothes, money, books that the children or that the young people or that the man or woman asked for. And then they would stay in bed for hours afterward, paying high amounts for time and attention to spend with one person. And so God was showing me this is a fake relationship, and it's mostly the kind of relationship requested by married people. See, married people, they want to feel deeply in love for a few hours a week. And so they go to the flop house and treat this person like a real relationship that they're having. God said they're in love for a few hours each week, and they can treasure this experience without the hassle of getting divorced or without the real life pressure of a real human lover who has the right to demand accountability and to demand things from you. God says they have absolutely no interest in making sure that that person gets free from the flop house. It's love on call. It's love on cash. I saw a boy being sodomized by a dog, and this is something that is starting to show a lot in these visions. I saw that the dog had been trained to do this. So the child was being used by this animal, and there was a man sitting fully dressed, smoking a cigar in an armchair watching it. I saw that some people came and requested young children to touch each other and have sex. And so if it was more interesting to them if both the children or one of the children had never had sex before. This was more interesting to the adults who requested this. Sometimes they never touched the children. They simply wanted the children to do the act themselves. And some of these patrons greatly just wanted to see virgins going through sex for the first time. That is what they were doing. They were basically paying for live porn. And so the flop house had to have a high demand of new children, because obviously if you have even 2 guys who keep coming in and requesting it, you quickly run out of virgin children. The Lord was showing me that children are destroyed in this country at unbelievably young ages. I saw that some people came in and they beat these people up real bad. They would tie them to the wall and they would strike them, beat them so badly that this person would sometimes need to rest his hand, rest his arm before doing it again. And sometimes the security came in and told them, that's enough. And the security weren't having a conversation and asking you if you want it to be enough or not. They would come in and say, that's enough. And then the person would be really mad and take their coat and go. And then when they would go, the security would take the person off the chained thing, take them off the wall and help them to bed. And then a caretaker would have to come in and start getting rid of the blood. And then the doctor would be called, because you're not supposed to kill the residents. But occasionally they do. if you choke somebody during the act or whatever, if you kill somebody, they will add it onto your bill as an extra expense. And you have to pay for that. There is a lot in this prophecy. I'm not going to read anything. This is part of why the Master's voice is there. I don't spend hours on that blog writing everything out so that I have to sit here and read all this stuff again. So God says that children and animals are going to be sexually abused in the future. This is something he has been saying. That men will start to sodomize animals and rape animals because Satan is going to bring such a wave of filth and sexual immorality to this earth that it will be greater than, the same as, or greater than the days of Noah. God said that the people in Noah's days were some of the worst and most sexually deviant, twisted human beings that have ever lived on earth. But he said that this generation is going to bypass them by far for wickedness. So no matter where you live in the world, as you hear a modern day person in 2022 tell you that the people in Noah's day are going to get the opportunity to spit on the people who live today and judge them. The people in Noah's time who were washed away by the flood will have the opportunity to condemn this generation for how sick it's going to be. Then maybe some of you might need to recalibrate your opinions of what God would say and what God wouldn't say. God said that the only desire of this generation is to do wickedness all the time. And some of the greatest victims of that wickedness through the hand of Satan using human beings will be children and animals. Men and women will perform bestiality with animals on tape and request for this type of pornography, and also this type of live sexual request will skyrocket. So it won't only be that they will make tapes of this. God was showing me that there's going to be live events. I saw a live event. A woman with an animal and everybody gathered around. It was at a private house. It was on request. They were paying her a lot of money to do it, and she accepted to do it. People will do this. God says that women will lie with beasts for money, but men will lie with animals for pleasure and call it a different experience. I'm going to close this prophecy with the word of the Lord. He said a lot. I will burn this world with fire for what they have done to my creation. I will not relent in my judgment, because man does not relent in his harlotry, meaning the inner prostitution of his soul that spills out into the outer prostitution of his acts. That is what harlotry is. A harlot is someone who has no limit to sexual depravity, that they will sell their sexual treasures for gain. Man only imagines deeper darkness inside himself, and he only conjures up more and more depraved things to do. The more I give them time to repent, the worse the world becomes. And so I will judge this world for its iniquity. And my judgment will come by fire. And I shared that writing this message really depressed me. By the time I was done, I was feeling so low, so very low. And all the Lord said to me is, my child, don't be distressed, because I am not showing you the full nature of these things. And I just find that mind-blowing. That God would express love to me and tell me, oh no, Celestial, I'm showing you the preview. I'm showing you highlights. I'm not actually showing you how bad it is that I, God, see. I'm only showing you what you can bear. He says in Portland, There are many of this type of house. Many, so many of them. The politicians know them and they go there frequently and they ease their desires on men, women, and children that are being held against their will. And then they go on TV and they promise budget cutbacks and a better life for all. God says that this happens all over America. And he says this is why whenever the truth comes out, very young people who have no exposure, so they're too young to be involved in politics and they're too young to know who these high-ranking people are. But he says this is how it always happens, that very young people who shouldn't know anything about who's in government can always name the politicians and the actors and the doctors and the judges and the police chiefs and law enforcement. He says they can always name them and they know them by face, but still people refuse to believe them. The reasons these victims can name them is because they saw them in the flop house. They can name them because it was that well-known person who had sex with them and abused them. But when they give their testimony, they are hunted down and killed. They are dismissed. They are laughed at and ridiculed. They are silenced and rejected by the population who say things like, don't you know he's married? Don't you know he's our senator? Don't you know he's a pillar in the community? Don't you know that he recently gave back and he built this and he did that for our city? You dare to accuse this great man who has everything of wanting to sleep with you. And isn't that the church? Isn't that the church's job now in America?
$1 in cash.
To defend the pastors and make it seem like the victim was just a whore sitting in church trying to entice the pastor, not knowing that the pastor is a systematic abuser because the pastor is filled with 221 demons of lust. Until finally the demons have driven him to the point where he's not satisfied touching himself. He's not satisfied touching his wife. He has to start touching the church members. And then God gets sick of that depravity and exposes it. And what does the so-called church do? We shouldn't judge. God gives everyone a second chance. It should happen to the children of the second chancers. That's what should happen. And then we will come there with a microphone and find out, how do you feel about that second chance, Mrs. Peabody? How's it going now that little Jack was the victim of the victimizing pastor? People are such hypocrites. Like I said, I see sick things.
It's a bus that'll bring you back too, so shit. I'm just saying, it be bitches over there and shit. I just don't know what we'll necessarily do. You said what?
This right here is the breakdown of Aholah-Aholibah and Aholah. It said the two whores. But this the breakdown right here that I was speaking on.
The two whores.
So
there are a number of whores who are women. These scriptures never get old or tired because as a people, we don't seem to change. Even after 2,700 years, we are still whoring against the Most High and against ourselves and against our nation. In wide awake knowledge of who we are and in a deep ignorance of not knowing who we are. And the end result will be destruction, death, judgment, and eternal death, and torment in the lake of fire, pain on top of thirst. The two whores in Ezekiel chapter 23 represent northern kingdom, Israel, and southern kingdom, Judah. This whole chapter is a metaphor or an analogy of the split kingdom of Israel after the death of King Solomon, during the reign of kings that followed him, including the first king to follow him, his son Rehoboam. The prophet Hosea also prophesied about northern kingdom Israel and southern kingdom Judah, and a whore, a real whore, that the Most High told Hosea the prophet to marry, was involved in those prophecies. Read those scriptures in Hosea chapter 1, verse 1 through 11. and see my video, Northern Kingdom Israelites became Gentiles during Hosea. This is more detail of the Northern Kingdom becoming the Gentiles that you read about in Paul's writings. The whole idea is to get us to take a look inward at ourselves and realize just how much we offended and are offending the Most High, and repent, so we won't have to die eternally and will be able to enjoy all the goodness that He has planned for us. But hey, if you think this world is good and can't see past the filth, then keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see how that works out for you. Now let's get our understanding on Ezekiel chapter 23. Listen carefully, ladies. Ezekiel 23, verse 1. The word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother. Who is this mother? The mother is Jerusalem, or Israel. Verse 3. And they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teats of their virginity. We see instantly that these are not real women. We know this because it says they committed whoredoms in Egypt. This is talking about when Israel was in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth.
Now look, only reason why he used like two women as significant, being significant of it, is because of the whoredoms, because of the prostitution of the nation. That's the only reason why he used, okay, we're going to use Aholah and Aholah-Aholibah. And we're going to get into the meaning of those names.
We were in our youth as a nation of people when we were in Egypt. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teats of their virginity. As a young virgin might squeeze her breast and rub her nipples, teats mean nipple. Their mind is on sex or doing something they shouldn't be doing. Verse 4. And the names of them were Aholah, the elder, and Aholibah, her sister. And they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names: Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem Aholibah. You see here, the Most High further shows you that these are not real women, but they represent His people. He says their names are Aholah, which is symbolic of Samaria, which is Northern Kingdom Israel, and Aholibah, which is symbolic of Judah, which is Southern Kingdom Judah. These names sound like a whore. This is by design. The elder was Aholah, which is Northern Kingdom, because they went into whoredom first and went into captivity first. The youngest was called Aholibah, which is Southern Kingdom Judah, that went a whoring later and went into captivity later. Remember, the Most High said they were His. So, you know this is about the nation of Israel, and not two real women. The message in this chapter is strongly for the women of our nation, and for us men too, to learn from. Verse 5. And Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians her neighbors, which were clothed with blue, captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses. And Aholah played the harlot when she was mine. Northern Kingdom, which belongs to the Most High, went lusting and whoring after Assyria. This is not just sex, but also wanting all the wicked ways of that wicked nation. It says she doted on her lovers, meaning Northern Kingdom was extremely fond. Doted means extremely fond of the Assyrians, and didn't care about their ways or what they were doing, and all these things were an abomination to our ways. Verse 7. Thus she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were the chosen men of Assyria, and with all on whom she doted. With all their idols she defiled herself. Basically, we got with them because they were decked out in their clothes and had position, money, power. Does this sound familiar today? Yeah, it do. You know how we roll. We see something that looks good, we want to go after it, not thinking about the consequences of our actions. Verse 8. Neither left she her whoredoms brought from Egypt, for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised the breast of her virginity, and poured their whoredom upon her. Even when we were in the land of Egypt, we were whored. The Most High had to bring us out because we were sinking to a very low estate.
Like
and
we
Egypt
doing now.
was doing all they could to morally corrupt us as a people. They knew about Yahweh and that we were his people because of Joseph. They wanted to keep us down on the bottom. They wanted to restrict our numbers so that they would lose their fear of us rising up against them. But the Most High knew he had to bring us out, and that's what he did. And when we came out, we brought the filth of our ways and the filth of the Egyptian ways with us. I mean, it makes me laugh sometimes when I think about it, because we as a people today just can't seem to see what the nations are doing to us. We won't break that yoke that they have on us. Verse 9. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians, upon whom she doted. Because we wanted the filth of the world, just like we do now, the Assyrian, the Most High delivered our people into the hand of our lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians, because we were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over them. That's right. They were like a sweet bowl of cereal to us. That's how many of you feel about America today, and are too blind to see the wicked side of this country. Verse 10. These discovered her nakedness. They took her sons and her daughters and slew her with the sword. And she became famous among women,
read this
for
part.
they had executed judgment
Get into
upon
it now.
her. Once Assyria saw that northern kingdom was fully corrupt, they turned their hatred toward them because they knew the Most High would not fight for us. As a matter of fact, the Most High sent them to punish us for our transgressions and whoredoms against him. Nothing happens unless the Most High allows it to happen. He actually brought that on us. Verse 11. And when her sister Aholah-Aholibah saw this, speaking of southern kingdom Judah, she was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she. We did it better than northern kingdom. And in her whoredoms more than her sister in her whoredoms. She doted upon the Assyrians, her neighbors, captains and rulers clothed most gorgeously, horsemen riding upon horses, all of them desirable young men. And when her sister Aholah-Aholibah saw this, talking about southern kingdom Judah, Judah was more corrupt in her inordinate love than northern kingdom, and in her whoredoms more than her sister in her whoredoms. You know how we Negroes or Jakes do. We're going to try and outdo others in everything we do, except in righteousness. Verse 13. Then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both one way, and that she increased her whoredoms. For when she saw men portrayed upon the wall, the images of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, the images of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion. Their clothes were a particular color of red.
See, I told you it was red.
Is a particular color of red. Verse 15. Girded with girdles upon their loins, exceeding in dyed attire upon their heads. So they had headdresses with different colors wrapped all around. I guess looking pretty good to them. All of them princes.
That's crazy because the ones who don't know they Israel, they was wearing that attire. They was wearing that attire on their heads, and you see, like, in the standpoint in the physical, as a modern day, you might see hair dye. Back then, they actually had the attire. They actually had the garments. They actually had the, like a diadem on their head, right? They said girdle with girdles upon their loins, exceeding and dyed attire upon their heads, all of them princes to look after the manner of the Babylonians of Chaldea, the land of their nativity. And as soon as she saw them with her eyes, she doted upon them, and she sent messengers unto them to Chaldea. Right?
Princesses to look to, after the manner of the Babylonians of Chaldea, the land of their nativity. Verse 16. And as soon as she saw them with her eyes, she doted upon them, and sent messengers unto them in Chaldea. It don't take much to get us going in the wrong direction. We are quick to lust after something or someone we see. Verse 17. And the Babylonians came to her in the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredom, and she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them. We desire the worthlessness of the Babylonians over the true wealth and love of the Most High. Unbelievable. We are a people lacking good judgment. Verse 18. So she discovered her whoredoms and discovered her nakedness. Then my mind was alienated from her, like as my mind was alienated from her sister. This is the Most High telling you that he alienated his mind from southern kingdom Judah, just like he did her sister, northern kingdom Israel. Once the southern kingdom Judah went so deep in their sins against the Most High, he turned his back on them, like he did with her sister, northern kingdom. Verse 19. Yet she multiplied her whoredoms in calling to remembrance the days of her youth, wherein she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt. For she doted upon their paramours, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Yeah, I know some of y'all need some explaining for this. For she doted upon the paramours. Paramours mean lover, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, meaning they were well hung like an ass. They had large wankers. Whose issue is like the issue of horses, meaning their ejaculation was much. From Israel's youth, the women went after other men, and it is the same sinful issues we have today. Verse 21. Thus thou callest to remembrance the lewdness of thy youth, in bruising the teeth or nipples by the Egyptians for the paps, which also means nipples, of thy youth. During our time in Egypt, the women were very lewd, rubbing the nipples in front of the Egyptians to entice them. Hot young mamas, you know, you've seen it today. You see it all the time today. Verse 22. There, O Aholah-Aholibah, thus saith the Lord Almighty, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee, from whom thy mind is alienated, and I will bring them against thee on every side. Now, the Most High is telling Aholah-Aholibah, southern kingdom Judah, that he will cause the Babylonians to come against them from all directions. And they did. Israel got surrounded. Israel was in a siege. Israel was starved. Verse 23. The Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pekah and Shoah and Koah, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, captains and rulers, great lords, and renowned, all of them riding upon horses. And they shall come against thee with chariots, wagons, and wheels, and with an assembly of people, which shall set against thee buckler and shield and helmet round about. And I will set judgment before them, and they shall judge thee according to their judgments. And I will set my jealousy against thee, and they shall deal furiously with thee. They shall take away thy nose and thy ears, and thy remnant shall fall by the sword. They shall take thy sons and thy daughters, and thy residue shall be devoured by fire. So, this is when the Babylonians came and surrounded Israel and destroyed us in a way never before seen. Judah's first big captivity. Verse 26. They shall also strip thee out of thy clothes, and take away thy fair.
We got something else to get into as well, but I'm just touching on Ezekiel 23. I might do a couple cross references, but I got this one particular spiritual warfare that's going on.
Jewels. Now, many of you have seen videos and TV shows, movies, whatever, about the Israelites. Those white folks over there that are pretending to be us. And whenever you see them, you ever notice how they're always in rags? They look like pitiful people. Well, we were never dressed like that. We had the finest clothes in the world. The Most High had us decked out better than any nation in the world. As a matter of fact, other nations emulated us. When you look at the ancient Chinese and Japanese and their fine robes and clothes, they got that from us. That's right, brothers and sisters. We were the best dressed. We didn't look like them ragamugs over there you see today on these TV shows. The Babylonians would strip us of our clothes and take away all of our jewels. The same thing happened in Africa when they took us to America on ships in slavery. The slave conditions on ships were very bad. It would have been much worse with clothing on. So they took our clothes off, packed us in those ships like sardines, and we pissed and crapped on each other for months during that journey. So when we stepped off the boat in this new land called America and people saw us, they called us savages. We didn't speak the language. We didn't have clothes. I'm sure our hair was a mess. So they thought we were savages. So you see, people misconstrued who we were. And that was also by design. Some knew that we were Israelites, but most did not know. Verse 27. Thus will I make thy lewdness to cease from thee, and thy whoredom brought from the land of Egypt, so that thou shalt not lift up thy eyes unto them, nor remember Egypt any more. The Most High intended on breaking us, and he did. For 70 years we would be in captivity, and we were. Verse 28. For thus saith the Lord Almighty, Behold, I will deliver thee into the hand of them whom thou hatest, into the hand of them from whom thy mind is alienated. And they shall deal with thee hatefully, and shall take away all thy labor, and shall leave thee naked and bare. And the nakedness of thy whoredoms shall be discovered, both thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. All of our labors, things we built and grew, they took away from us for themselves. It is hard to see why we can't serve the Most High. Hard to see why we can't serve him. It's easy to serve him and enjoy the good things of life that he has for us. But rather serve him, we want to serve our enemies and enjoy the bad things of life. The food sucks today. And we want to stay here in this world, in this country, and eat this garbage and put up with this mess. Unbelievable. The Most High dealt with us with love. Our enemies dealt with us with hatred, envy, and anger. And we're getting a bowl full of it today. It's like we lust after the other nations, then they are good to us, everything is good. And then we end up on the bottom, kicked to the curb. Alright, verse 30. I will do these things unto thee, because thou hast gone a-whoring after the heathen, because thou art polluted with their idols. The Most High said he would do these things to us because we went whoring after the heathen, and because we polluted ourselves with their idols. And we still do. We go after everything under the sun, and we lift those things up and make them more important than the Most High. Those are idols. No matter what it is, If you put something before the Most High, before His Word, they become idols. You're false gods. Verse 31. Thou hast walked in the way of thy sister, therefore will I give her cup into thy hand. After seeing the wickedness of northern kingdom, Judah sat back and watched northern kingdom go through all the stuff they went through and go into captivity. After being starved, killed, beaten, whatever, they saw it all. And then we did the same thing. Judah did the same thing, not learning anything, and the Most High gave us the same cup that northern kingdom drank of. Verse 32. Thus saith the Lord Almighty, thou shalt drink of thy sister's cup, deep and large. Thou shalt be laughed to scorn and had in derision. It containeth much. Thou shalt be filled with drunkenness and sorrow, with the cup of astonishment and desolation, with the cup of thy sister Samaria. Thou shalt even drink it and suck it out, and thou shalt break the sherds thereof, and pluck off thy own breast. For I have spoken it, saith the Lord Almighty.
But y'all still should.
The other nations do everything in their power to bring us down. They are friends with us until we fall. When we fall, they then laugh because they know we had the real true God. Then we become astonished at our low position among the nations. Then all of a sudden we want to cry out to God, oh, help us. Why is it we wait until we're in a bad situation to want to cry out to God? We should be crying out to God when we're feeling good, doing well, and everything is rolling smooth in our lives. We should be crying out to God then, because we need to realize that what we have in this present world is strictly garbage. We should be crying out to Him to take us home, to end this world and get the next world started. That's where the real party at, y'all. Verse 35. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Almighty, because thou hast forgotten me and cast me behind thy back, therefore bear thou also thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. The Most High said, because we have forgotten Him and cast Him behind our back, He tells us to bear our lewdness and our whoredoms. That is what we also are seeing today. You can see the lewdness and whoredoms of our people everywhere you go. Go to the grocery store, it's in there. Go to the bank, it's in there. Go shopping, you see it in there. The ridiculous, whorish clothes that our women wear. And the mothers let the young daughters wear it too. It's unbelievable. And the men walking around with their pants hanging all off their butt like a jailhouse whore. Verse 36. Yahweh said moreover unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Aholah and Aholibah? Yeah, declare unto them their abominations. Now, you know, people say, you can't judge me. But the Bible tells us to judge people according to the righteousness of the Bible. The Most High told Ezekiel to declare to Israel their abominations. Ezekiel was judging his people according to the righteousness of the Most High's word. So yeah, we can judge people. But we also need to remember too that we who claim to be righteous were just like them. We were doing some of the same wicked stuff they do. And we need to understand that they can change. So we need to keep that in mind when we're also judging other people. And remember not to be a hypocrite, because even though we claim to be righteous and we are more perfect than others, we too still sin. Verse 37. That they have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands, and with their idols have they committed adultery. So you see, with the idols, we committed adultery. With the things we put before the Most High, before His word, we commit adultery. It's like cheating on a spouse. and have also caused their sons, whom they bear unto me, to pass from them through the fire, to devour them. Now, some of y'all may not know this, but we were sacrificing kids to false gods. They take their babies and put them in the fire. Now, we were committing many sins that blood sacrifice could not cover, worshiping idols of wood and stone, committing adultery against the Most High, and sacrificing our children in the fire to false gods. In abortion clinics, it's the same thing. There is nothing new under the sun, just different ways of doing it under the sun. Verse 38, to the Most High sanctuary as if nothing happened. Hey, that was a nice little sacrifice we had last night, sacrificing to the devil that one. Yeah, everything looks pretty good in the sanctuary today. You see, something similar to that today. People go out and commit great sins Friday night and then go sit up in a church Saturday, which is the Sabbath, giving no thought to their past wickedness. I can't understand. I can't understand the thought of people. Now, like I said, we were just like them. We did some of the same stuff. But we repented. And that is what our people need to do. Repent. Turn to the Most High. Verse 40. And furthermore, that ye have sent for men to come from far, unto whom a messenger was sent. And lo, they came, for whom thou didst wash thyself, paintest thy eyes, and deckest thyself with ornaments, and sattest upon a stately bed, and a table prepared before it, whereupon thou hast set my incense and my oil. And a voice of a multitude being at ease was with her, and with the men of the common sort, who brought Sabians from the wilderness, which put bracelets upon their hands, and beautiful crowns upon their heads. When trouble arrived, our people sought other nations, and not God. They lusted after the nations, and not after God. They turned their face to other nations, and turned their backs to God. They forgot the Most High, and the Most High forgot them. Verse 43. Then said I unto her that was old in adulteries, will they now commit whoredoms with her, and she with them? The Most High is asking a question. The nations that are old in adulteries, will they now commit whoredoms with her, and she with them? Verse 44. Yet they went in unto her as they go in unto a woman that playeth the harlot. So went they in unto Aholah and unto Aholibah, the lewd women, which is Israel. So the nations that were old in adulteries went in unto Aholah and Aholibah, the lewd women, the nation of Israel. Verse 45. And the righteous men, they shall judge them after the manner of adulteresses. Come the rocks. And after the manner of women that shed blood, because they are adulteresses, and blood is in their hands. So with the sins that northern kingdom, Aholah, and southern kingdom, Aholibah, committed, there are sins that require death. So the Most High would kill them and remove them from the land, because you have to remove sin from the land. Verse 46. For thus saith the Lord Almighty, I will bring up a company upon them, and will give them to be removed and spoiled. And the company shall stone them with stones, and dispatch them with their swords. They shall slay their sons and their daughters, and burn up their houses with fire. So the Most High caused the punishment to come up on Israel, both Aholah, northern kingdom, and Aholibah, southern kingdom. Verse 48. Thus will I cause lewdness to cease out of the land, that all women may be taught not to do after your lewdness. That all women may be taught not to do after your lewdness. So the main idea of this chapter is to teach women not to do as the women of the days of old. This is a lesson, ladies, that you should pay close attention to. Everybody lusts, but you need to control your lust and not act out on your lust. Verse 49. And they shall recompense your lewdness upon you, and ye shall bear the sins of your idols, and ye shall know that I am the Lord Almighty. It can be a good thing to know that the Most High is the Lord Almighty, and it could be a bad thing to know that the Yahweh is the Lord Almighty. Keep that in mind. So the main idea of this chapter is to teach women not to do as the women of the days of old. When you look at our women that were around during the 50s and 60s, you see today that they are off the chain. The women today cannot compare to those women of the 50s and 60s. We dress respectably in most cases. Now, we still had some hoochies back then, but for the most part, as a people, we were respectable. The same wicked women that lived in the time past, ancient days, are living today and have not learned anything and don't want to learn anything and will pay for their poor judgment, because the Most High said, they shall recompense your lewdness upon you, and ye shall bear the sins of your idols. Meaning, all the unrighteous things you've lusted after, and ye shall know that he is the Lord Almighty. Peace is real. TikTok.